I know.
You can drive virtually.
There's
Just whatever.
only specific legal reasons that you're allowed to.
Oh, okay.
Traveling for work is one of them. That's
Okay.
what he's doing.
Okay.
Not being able to find childcare is a new one as of last year.
Okay.
So, yeah, they recognize it. It's a volunteer thing, so.
Thank you.
Okay,
You're ready to rock and roll?
excellent. I call this regular Board of Education meeting to order at 7 PM on Monday, June 23rd. Ms. Sully, will you please call the roll?
Jennifer Glidwood. Here. Chris Hamilton.
Here.
Erica Peterson.
Here.
Jillian Bolt. Here. John Reynolds. Fred Stepson.
Here.
And Lisa Lucia.
All right, please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. It's a full house of the regular suspects, I guess, back there. How do you all like that, this room instead of the middle school, instead of the elementary school? Does it matter really? Are you back there?
Does it feel like home to me? All building her home to me, so.
Excellent. All right, Ms. Sully, do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Excellent. Are there any addition of non-action items? Okay, our final reading and adoption of board policies. Ms. Peterson, would you like to report on any of the policies, or Mr. Hamilton, if you would like?
So I think we talked about this before.
I was gonna say, I'll defer to Erica. She's in person. You'll hear her better, so I'll let her explain.
So I said we definitely reviewed all these. I think it's been maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and I think that all of these pretty much are just to make the policies consistent with some of the new laws that have been passed by the state of Illinois. I don't think there was anything terribly noteworthy. There certainly wasn't anything I was worried about. I don't think Chris had any concerns about anything. But I think, like I said, the most part was just to make them consistent with some of the new laws that were passed.
Thank you. I'm not taking any action on that right now. Any questions from members? Okay. Number 6, action.
No,
Oh,
we can-
no,
Yep, we can take action on approving those.
okay. It just said reading and adoption. Okay, all right. I need a motion to approve those policies.
I move to approve the final reading and adoption of board policy.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Excellent. Motion carries. Number 6, other action items, approve the Little Heroes contract for the 25-26 school year. Anything to add on that? We discussed it already. Read some more space.
Yeah, I want to make sure we get the right ones, because there's a couple of different contracts for services. So Little Heroes is Sherry Golbiowski, who's a OT or PT? PT. She's a PT that we contract with for services for our kids. We've been doing this for a very long time with her. It's great. 3 days a week. Yep.
Any questions on that? Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve Little Heroes contract for the 2025-2026 school year.
Is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Sully, please call the roll.
Jennifer Glidwood. Yes. Chris Hamilton.
Yes.
Erica Peterson.
Yes.
Jillian Bolt. Yes. And Fred Stepson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
That's the next one is our audit engagement letter with Acision. That is a company, we have been using them in one form or another for a long time, but they've been bought or merged, and it's now Acision. I don't know who it was when we started using, but it's basically the same chain. And this is for the audit for the 24-25 school year. Okay. Questions? And comments? Is there a motion to approve the audit engagement letter for Acision?
I move to approve the audit engagement letter with the CCN.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Sully, please call the roll.
Chris Hamilton,
Yes.
Eric Peterson,
Yes.
Jillian Phelps.
Yes.
Brent Stetson,
Yes.
and Jennifer Clifton.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Excellent. 6C, approve consolidated district plan. And this is the one with the new positions? No, that's, okay,
No, this is actually for state grants.
okay.
So we have to approve the consolidated district plan so that we can then apply for Title I's, 2s, 3s, 4s. I think that's it, idea. There's different grants that the state manages from the federal government through the state. And so this is just the consolidated district plan that says we would like it. It's if anybody would like to see it, it's very fine print at about 40 pages, and a lot of it's just checkbox things that we have to say, yes, we will follow the law on, and here's how we plan to use it, general terms. And then the next step then is to do specific grant writing for each of those individual plans. So this is the consolidated plan. We have to do this first. It has to get board approval before it gets submitted to the state. Which seems a little backwards because then they kick it back to me and we go, but basically what the board is saying is, yes, we are going to apply for these funds.
Okay. So for our title funds and grants, is there a motion to approve the consolidated district plan?
I move to approve the consolidated district plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we can do a voice vote for this? Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. 6D, approve the memorandum of understanding for prorated stipends during retirement track. So this was an issue that Jason emailed us about. We had a teacher who had some health issues and had to leave during the 23-24 school year. They were covering the lunch stipend, so they received their salary. They're already on the retirement track. And so they only receive their lunch stipend for part of the year because FMLA doesn't cover the stipend. So they receive their full FMLA salary for the rest of the year they're out. So when they returned for the school year, for the 24-25 school year, they did work and earned that full stipend, but they were already on the retirement track. So they went over that 6% earnings within their last certain number of years on the retirement track. So the district will have to pay a penalty. The amount of that penalty is not necessarily known. I'm not an actuary. I can't predict how much that's going to cost the state and then us. I do find it very important that we pay people for the time they work. But this is just going to cause us a little extra money, and we don't have a figure on that yet. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So
We won't
and
know
yes,
until
You don't even have a ballpark on that?
several years from now.
It won't be tens of thousands of dollars. So when we do get penalties from TRS in overages, for reasons that would be more than a stipend like this, it's typically around few $1,000s. So I don't believe it would be $10,000 or greater or anything like that. But an exact amount, to Dr. Lynn's point, wouldn't be known until we get the paperwork from TRS, which will happen after the teacher retires.
okay. So where we are. Any questions on that or more clarification? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding for prorated stipends during retirement track?
I move to approve the MOU for prorated stipends during retirement track.
Second,
Second.
all in, Ms. Sully, please call the roll.
Eric Peterson,
Yes.
Jillian Phelps.
Yes.
Brent Stetson,
Yes.
Jennifer Clifton,
Yes.
and Chris Hamilton.
Yes.
Motion, yes.
Thank you very much. 6E, approve H Lurk as primary legal counsel. Hodges, I don't know them all. We're on their newsletter. We've been using them for a long time. They're one of the big players in the state. part of the press organization, we are welcome to use other attorneys or hire other attorneys for ad hoc needs if we have a specific issue arise and we want somebody who's more specialized in that specific area instead of overall education. So this is just our general counsel on record.
You use different counsel for like special education.
That's correct.
Just making sure.
Yep.
Good question.
We use Angler, Callaway and Bassett for special education, and we use, when we go through bonding or financial, we use Chapman and Copeland usually. Depending on who the bonding agent is. We haven't done that for a long time. Thanks.
I move to approve H. Clerk as primary legal counsel.
I'll second.
Ms. Sully, please call the roll.
Jillian Phelps,
Yes.
Brett Stefan,
Yes.
Jennifer Glickman,
Yes.
Chris Hamilton,
Yes.
Erica Peterson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much. 6F, approve Daily Herald as publisher for legal notices. Whenever we make big changes, we have to inform the public. It's the local paper. Question, I don't know.
Is this what we already use?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not, so it's not the new.
And there's not a lot of options.
I was gonna say that.
In newspaper,
I wonder if they'll ever change that,
I wonder.
because I think we're gonna come
It's
to
a
a
little
time
silly
where,
now.
yeah.
Mhm.
Paper isn't this.
Yeah.
I move to approve Daily Herald as publisher for legal notices.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Number 6, action item 6G, approve Wold, again, acronym for names, as the architect of record. They're another one of the big players in architectural education. They had a great display at the III conference of new renovations they've done. They've done a lot of green updating on buildings, gold LEED, LEED certifications and all sorts of stuff like that. So they are currently our architect of record. Use them a long time. Any other questions or
What does
comments?
that exactly mean, the architect of record? Like, if you have something small you need done, they automatically get it, you don't have to bid it?
Maybe.
Oh.
We have to have an architect of record for certain things. First, just because it's the law. So we have to have somebody that we can call, who's our architect. That doesn't mean we have to use them ever for anything other than, do we have to use them for health, life, safety?
I don't know, but I can find out.
Yeah.
We do use them for whole place.
We do use them, yeah. Yeah, we have a contract with them, so we use them for certain things. But if we were doing a bigger project that, we would bid that
Bid
out.
it out, okay.
Potentially.
We do examples where we use them throughout the year would be on questions that we might have specific to building code. So last year, very specific example was changing some bathrooms down by the early childhood wing. And we needed their expertise on what would need to change from an ADA perspective or from a building code perspective, because it's such an old part of the building. So just having that expertise.
And we use them for, carpet. When we do carpeting, just to consult them. Patterns and give recommendations, use them for,
They designed the STEM lab, I believe,
yeah,
at the
they
elementary
did
school.
design them for that project. So yeah, for small projects, we would try to use them, that's why they're our architect of record.
Right.
To have one, we went through a very strenuous, proposal process. You remember for that? It was a while ago, but it wasn't that long ago. We've done 2 in my superintendency time. We've gone through the process to hire a new architect of record. It's a lot of work.
Sounds like it.
Yes.
I move to approve Wold as the architect of record.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Sully, please call the roll.
Fred Stepstrom,
Yes.
Jennifer Glickly,
Yes.
Chris Hamilton,
Yes.
Erica Peterson,
Yes.
and Jillian Bones.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Action item 6H, approve Veronica Lynn Collins and Chloe Kraft as FOIA officers. I assume they're both still willing to do this. They have both been operating in that role for a number of years now. I've received no complaints about either of them. Questions?
I move to approve Veronica Lynn Collins and Carly Kraft as FOIA officers.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. 6I, appointment of State Bank of the Lakes for depository. And is this just where we keep money sitting? This isn't our investment, or it can just,
It's where, it's the bank that we use, for payroll and all of our accounts payable. We do receive our interest, the interest that we receive every month that, I was going to say that that's included in the treasurer's statement, that's baked into that, so. In a way, yes, that's where we have a little bit of an investment, but it's basically just our checking accounts.
So we have a sweep account that pays us interest. And that's where we get that. Some of them, and we have other. We have any CDs with that?
We do not,
No, just the sweep
No.
account.
right?
And we've gone out to look at other options and compare with other banks, and we're doing just fine. So. It's convenient, and we're getting a good return compared to what other districts and other banks that we looked at for us.
localized
It's local.
bank.
Ish.
Yeah,
Ish. Not
Lake
even-
County.
And it used to be, yes. They're owned by Wintrust now.
Yeah.
Which I believe is Chicago based.
Other questions? Motion to approve,
I move to approve the appointment of State Bank of the Lakes for depository.
all in, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Action item 6J, approve the 2025 impact fees. Some numbers there. Thank you. All right, so if we have developers in the region, Lennar is making those behind Children of America. Did you wanna touch base on this? Or- Okay. And then has Briargate completely sold yet? Or it's still
They,
cooking?
they're still selling, but they don't have impact fees
Oh.
because they don't have children going into the school district. So essentially an impact fee is just for a way for a taxing entity or taxing body to collect revenue before the development's created and paying property taxes. So in 2004, the board agreed to a formula that determines the impact fees. They're calculated every year. This is the total contribution amount for the 2025 year. In the event that there would be any new developments coming into the district.
Questions? All in favor or is there a motion to approve the 2025 impact fees?
I move to approve the impact fees 2025.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Ms. Sula, please call the roll.
Jennifer Glickly,
Yes.
Chris Hamilton,
Yes.
Erica Peterson,
Yes.
Jillian Bones,
Yes.
and Fred Stepstrom.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, 6K, approval of consent agenda. Our minutes, paying the bills. New hires, resignations. Anything specific anybody wants to go over? Questions on? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Business. A lot of
yes.
business stuff.
Information discussion, FOIA requests. This is an information broker that does this frequently. We comply. No problems. District goal setting. Jason?
Okay, I'm gonna take us, and I'll try to be as succinct as possible, taking us through last year's goals briefly, just a quick reminder what this year's goals are, which are gonna be very, very similar overall from the highest level, board level, and then talk a little bit about how that's gonna break down for activities this year. So let me stop sharing here. Pull up screen. Here. All this. Okay. So last year, our goal was to increase the rate of learning for students. We're measuring it with our MAP scores. Our action plan was, the biggest piece of that was implementing a new math curriculum. There were some activities that we did, but that was the big push last year. Indicator of success was we were looking at the conditional growth index from fall to spring on NWE and math, and here's the results. We're shooting for over the 60th percentile as a district. In math, we hit the 92nd percentile, and in reading the 66th. So yes, on both. And just to give a little bit of context, I'll show you another graph. Our math committee was a successful implementation. The math committee met monthly. We reviewed teacher feedback, and data was reviewed and in those committees through those channels. So Carrie Gedville led that committee work, and it was highly successful. And also we saw it show up on the NWA score, so that was pretty exciting. So just to give you an idea of what that means, because context is always good. This is the last 10 years of growth that Ben put this slide together, so we can see how we were increasing in general. The blue is the highest growth. That's over the 70th percentile, Ben? 66th. So if you hit 67, that's where it shows up as blue. So as you move forward, we were cruising along and growing up until 1819. And then we took a step back during this little COVID experiment we had. And now we're back on track for math. And that's showing that historical context. And last year was absolutely incredible as far as growth. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context to say where that came from. There were 4 grade levels on the conditional growth index that hit the 99th percentile, I believe.
The whole grade level.
The whole grade level. Not every kid was in the 99th percentile, but that as a grade level growth compared to other schools in the country, there were 4 grade levels that as a grade level did better than 99% of the other grade levels in the country on that particular measure. So that's pretty good. This is reading also. You can see in 1819 we're trending upwards, took a little bit step back, and now we're trending back in the right direction and looking forward to additional growth there. And we'll talk more about that later. Why do we focus on ELA? We talked about this in the past. Math and ELA is, well, we want to develop well-rounded students. We want them to get the basics of reading and math because that's the foundation for every other subject area that we do. Are there other things that are valuable in other subject areas, social studies and science? Absolutely, we must do that. But in order to get there, really kids, in order to have success and have lifelong success, ELA and math are still foundational to everything else. Goal number 2, increase connections amongst members of our school community. we've talked a little bit about this, we did some parent use, we tried to do some different things, create a district dashboard, create some interactions with smaller groups. There's different activities that we did there, and we've seen a lot of that, so I'm not gonna go over that. We want to build the relationships because that's important for our community, but it's important for our kids. Our kids do better in a connected community. Goal number 3, protect the community investments and infrastructure by ensuring appropriate funds are directed at appropriate priorities. So that's budgeting, and that's our business model of let's make sure our spaces are nice and clean and functioning. Everything's working and they look nice, because that's also important. Students do better when they walk into the environment that is attractive. We did our budget last year. Cameras was one of our bigger updates, which is actually, we're gonna be trained on the new cameras on Thursday, so we're pretty excited about that. That brings us to this year. So again, we want to continue to increase the rate of learning. I didn't put ELA and math because maybe we want to start measuring other things, but really we're going to focus on ELA and math again. This is another measure that we have, the independent reading level assessment that our elementary students do take part in. And you can see on the right, the percent proficient, it's a little blurry there. The good news is that it grows as our kids go through our system and grows in a positive direction. But we've got some work to do on that particular assessment and room for improvement. So we are going to do that. We're going to work on that. Here's another, just a snapshot of our district on ELA. So if you look at the left, it's where we're at for our achievement levels. This is what we've got. These are pretty high. These are the percentage of students who got a 4 or 5 on the IAR assessment. It's a pretty high standard, but shows you that we have some room to grow there. Now, if we look at cohort growth, so I look at, this is where we're at. How did they do last year to this year? So this is 3rd grade, the 4th grade. So that particular cohort last year jumped 11 points. That is awesome. Anything over 4, I think, is significant and in positive direction. 7th dropped for some reason. It happens. And I think they had high growth the year before, so maybe that was the level, not sure. Then I look at NWEA achievement. So this is the percentage of students in which this is not a total randomized number, but the percentage of students that are above the 67th percentile in achievement is measured across the nation. We use the 67th percentile because right around that area is what is predictive of getting a 22 or higher on the SAT test or ACT test. I'm sorry, the ACT test, which is like we'll call it college ready. It's just a number. Well, this is something that we look at. We're shooting for more kids above that line. That's just the bar. That doesn't measure every student, which is why we use the growth metric. You know, how the conditional growth index measures every student and how they're improving. So, which we did amazing on. We're also measuring, okay, how many kids are we getting? This is our line. How many kids are we getting above that line? And then this shows you their cohort growth, where we had some cohorts really take a jump and some not so much. I was looking at the 2nd grade. I'm not real concerned about that 2nd grade because it's a different test that they take in kindergarten and 1st grade. It's NWEA, but it's a completely different format and measurement. And we always drop from 1st grade to 2nd grade, percentage wise. Doesn't mean the kids lost ground. It just means on whatever scale they're using, they drop. The good news is also, as I look at cohorts over time, again, I look at each one as they progress over the years, and there's always some ups and downs and leveling. In general, they're trending higher from when we start to when they leave us in 8th grade. Almost, I don't know any cohort that don't. So that's good. Here's the same information just in math. What's interesting is when we looked at the NWEA, our math scores were higher in relativity to the ELA. And when we look at the IAR assessment, they're lower relative to the ELA. Just an interesting note. I think that's just alignment with our curriculum to the assessment. And that's something we'll continue to look at for next year.
I think the state overall too, math isn't as high.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think the state, because they've started the math task force, that they're revisiting all the standards and what's in the assessment because of that.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because I don't have anything to compare to yet, till October. For the state.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. I know that the state is looking at the cut scores that we won't know what they are. Yet. Oh, the fall. But our cohort growth year over year is not too bad. These are just things that we monitor, those ends, the outcomes. We have to look at something. So this is it. So given the data that we analyzed this year, that was real high level data. Breaking it down a little bit, we want to focus on instructional practices at tier 1 level, because every student gets tier 1 sports, and by tier 1 is for the non-education majors. Tier 1 is that base level of core classroom sport that every student should get. So if that instruction is solid, our thought process is that then that next level, we will know what kids need to get the support that they need to grow. And there's 3 tiers of support that we offer. The overall triangle is called MTSS, multi-tiered system of supports. So there's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And each time you move up, there's fewer kids getting those services, and they're more intense. Specifically, we are looking at implementing the UDL framework, which is Universal Design for Learning framework, that helps teachers plan more specifically for students and their instruction, and have a mindset of looking at barriers that prevent students from achieving their maximum potential in the classroom. So we're gonna slowly roll it out. We're learning about it. I'm learning about it with the staff, but that's really what we decided. What we talked about this year was we have to get that core instruction as solid as we can and really support our teachers in becoming experts at that level. And that's where, because every kid gets that support that builds. Any questions about that? It's a lot. But you guys have this information if you have any more questions. This is a broad overview, and then as we break it down into, okay, how are we gonna do that? We come back to, okay, what does that look like in school district, whether district level changes that we need to make, and what is each school? Again, we look at map data, we look at the ERLA data, we look at the IR data, and then we're looking at indicators of success in the classroom this year for UDL as we implement that. What are we going to look like? What does that look like in the classroom? Are we seeing it? Are teachers using it? That's what we are working on.
How do we, and I'm not a teacher, but like, how do we know, because I know you talked about this before, UDL, but how do we know it's working? Is it because the test scores will go up? Is it more not so like number driven? I'm just curious, like, how do we know? I know, I trust you that it's good, I just wonder how do we know?
Oh, yeah, don't trust me. Trust the experts that,
Well, you're the expert, but like, how do we know it's working? Like, is there a way to measure it or?
that is the way to measure it. I mean, we're looking at those outcomes on test scores. Yeah, that's the best we have. The more we can, hopefully do the right thing and the scores will take care of themselves. It's kind of a tricky balance to me. We look at the scores, but we want to look at, are we doing the right things to get us the results? And we believe that UDL in this process is the right thing to look at. So we are going to collect information on, do students feel like they belong? Do staff members feel like they belong? Because that's part of UDL, is that engagement. Do I belong in the classroom? Is the instruction geared toward what I need? I'm excited about coming to school. Attendance is something that we look at to improve attendance, because we know that one of the barriers to learning is being in school. It's hard to learn when you're not in the classroom, so that's a barrier. And for some kids, there's all kinds of different reasons for attendance, but for some kids, it's, hey, I'm bored. I don't like going to school, or I don't feel comfortable, or the teacher doesn't like me, or maybe it's Jason doesn't like me. I don't want to sit next to Jason and keep bugging me. Well, those are the kinds of things we look at too. So attendance is an outcome. The test scores are an outcome, the ERLA, the NWEA, and the other ones as well. They're more local informative, but those have been inside our NWEA.
How do you gather the sense of belonging data?
The best we can, we're working on that and trying to decide. But the best we can do is surveys,
And do you like,
Google Forms sometimes. That's quick and easy.
right?
Or look, what is the
Savers.
Sabers? So there are companies that put out different surveys that we can use to collect some of that data.
And the kids answer those, or the parents, or both?
Kids,
Cool.
Do you do one for teachers too?
we have a belonging survey we have before.
Sabers aren't for.
Sabers
not
not.
for teachers, but. We do other works like.
It's tough. That's a challenge.
Yeah. Do you look at your 5 essentials data for that?
We do. So there's, I'm gonna talk about 5 essentials. Bullet point, but yes, we definitely look at 5 essentials data. The problem with, or the challenge with 5 essentials that we talked about is it doesn't go to 4th grade, only 4th grade, or 8th grade take it, so we are missing that.
Right.
K to 3. And it's worded a little bit weird, it's tougher to fill out for kids.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions from them?
Okay.
All right.
That was goal 1, is learning. Goal 2 is connections. We believe, I don't have a lot on the action plan. I know the board has talked about how do we connect with our community, so I'm looking for further conversations about community, broader connections with the UDL efforts. That has a lot to do with connection classrooms as well, so I think those are gonna overlap. People, you've heard this saying forever, I'm sure. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. Kids they're not gonna learn unless they're connected to that teacher and to the other students in the classroom sometimes too. Or the other students, so connection is important. We do a lot with connections already through our historic practices, activities, PBS. But that one's a little bit slim for now at the board level, but we'll come back to that. We do want to work on our communication through the website and through district app. That's gonna be a big lift this year. Maybe this summer, but I don't.
And Jason and I met last week and talked a little bit about what we might need to do to communicate to community members who don't have kids in the school. And get information out to them so they kind of know, have their finger on the pulse, because at some point, we're gonna have to ask them for money. I mean, it's just the way that schools work. And if they know about things, they're more likely to come along and it, rather than being blindsided and say, wait a minute, I didn't know that we needed all this, so. That might be something we as a board wanna talk about, is how do we communicate, like the discussions we have here. People can go and watch the YouTube, they're not going to. So how can we get like one pagers out there of information, even if it's quarterly, of different things that we've talked about, highlights, from the district out to the community, not just parents.
Yep. Thanks. So be thinking about that. How do we connect? Where are people getting their information from?
So I remember, I think very few members of the community who didn't have parents, who didn't have students here actually signed up for the newsletters, the digital ones, so. They have the option to opt in to Mustang Minute and Cougar Catch, but I believe not many. I wanna say like maybe less than 10.
Well, I haven't had kids here in 8 years and I didn't know you could do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about, is we have to get that information out to people, because I would have loved to see all the things going on, you know, even after my kids left. To see what's going on.
But that's a good idea to reach out to the people who don't have kids.
Yes,
They
I-
are, they tend to be.
I mean, truthfully, we're gonna have to reach them through social media is where it's gonna happen. Is to put mailings out to people, like that's a lot of money and that's not really being good stewards either, so. We can find freer ways to do that, or less expensive ways.
And maybe it boosted initially. To boost it down through X or
Yeah,
whatever, Instagram,
right.
hey, push it out. Yep. There's lots of options, which ones work?
Right. I feel like we gotta try something.
Yep.
Start.
At one point, we took baggies and with rocks in them. Remember that? They threw them on every driveway in the district.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, just put it in the street in wagons and threw out baggies, rocks, because we didn't want them blown away.
I received a few of those for other solicitors.
Yep,
Yeah, you
That's where we got it,
I usually
yeah.
give them away though.
Yeah, and I don't even.
Don't get over there.
Yeah.
I don't even check my mail, so.
What was it? It just rocks? It was like a piece of.
Paper.
Oh, okay.
It was-
So obviously the A to C and the B sex.
Yeah.
B stuff, okay.
And we gotta put like blacktop people will come by and
Yeah.
throw a flyer up. Instead of putting them on their doors, but sometimes put a baggie. Oh, we should do that with the district newspaper.
But truthfully, okay, so going off that idea, like even if we got postcards with like a QR code or something so that parents could then like, or community members could zap it and sign up or get information, just do a one-shot deal and just stick it indoors. Some of us are used to walking door to door lately, so.
Got about 3,000 in the district.
My thing is like, will they read it? Like, that's my whole thing.
But
Is that
that's like-
something?
Milburn School District, they might say, oh, this is my community school. Even if you get 50 people, it's 50 more than you had.
Or say like, or even like address it, like, even if you don't have kids here, your money is going
Yes.
to the school, like, this is why you should hear,
We
it,
want you to
why you
know.
should know this.
Yep. And pushing out through Facebook, just through our network of friends,
Yeah.
just the people in the room who can push it out.
Cause like I said, even if we get 50, that's more than we had. Just getting information so that when we need something from somebody, they at least feel connected somehow. Maybe.
Yep.
We could never do like an open house at the schools, right? Something that'd be like safety issues. Like did invite, actually invite people, like, if you wanna come see the school, like.
Oh, yeah, so we could do that. How we can do that.
Tours or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, people might be.
Whatever.
See what,
Other than, 'cause we have like parent showcase night. Things like that. So you're saying like just. Community
People may
overall,
not be
yeah.
coming in regularly, who just may want to be like, I'm paying for the school, maybe I should
Yeah.
go and see what it looks like.
I'm
See
even
if it makes sense.
thinking I don't know what the name of the new subdivision is, the retirement community.
right,
Yeah, like, they're never gonna come over here, but if we like pull them
Reach out to
in,
them.
yes, like, maybe they'll come volunteer to read a kindergarten class, or I don't know, but, they're.
Yeah.
we tried to hire them to drive buses.
Brilliant, working in a lunchroom, like, truly, like, reach out, make them feel a part of what's going on here.
There's a few that have been,
That's great.
yeah,
When it's time to vote for something.
Yeah.
They'll be like, you know what, they reached out to me, I can saw the school, they're doing great things, but if they don't know, they don't even know that this is their home school.
they do.
I'm sure
They see the tax
They
bill.
do, yeah.
That was, yes.
They know it's there.
Yep, we have a liaison for them.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yep, she's been to a couple board, it's great. Yeah, wonderful.
Untapped resource though, I think.
Huge, huge. Gotta find the right people, right?
Right. We don't want them here for the wrong reason.
Well, initially, that's okay. Just
They
want
were-
them to be informed accurately.
Some of them, they see their huge tax bill for Milburn, and so we came to the meeting, Jason had a powwow with some of them over there.
It's a connection, yeah,
That was good.
yeah, and just bring
But there was
clarity to
30
the
people.
tax bill and progress and stuff.
30 people?
Yeah, we met at the library. They invited me.
They're like, who like you?
To go over the school finances. It was great. So community connection, we'll keep working on that. Goal 3, again, is facilities and finance, basically. So we are working on facilities plan, continuously updating and working on facilities plan. How can we make the spaces more attractive, and how can we manage our resources well? And it's our financing is tight, so that's the way it goes. We had specifically this year working on roofing plan moving forward, because that's probably gonna be our largest expense. Single most roofing, and then parking lots, and then windows, or depending on what we do with the east wing at the elementary school, which is literally becoming apart.
Our biggest expense in the future, not for this year.
Yeah, not for this year. Long term. 5-year plan and beyond. Okay. So our action plan there is create a fiscal responsible budget and analysis of facilities, finance, communication. Communicating finances out beyond just our families. So when I put in the rationale, and I flipped through these pretty quick because you guys have seen them, but read them already, but these are all related to our vision statements. So the rationale was, hey, that vision is a living vision document, and it does inform our goals, and this is why, how to some of these goals, how they connect. That's it for that.
Any other questions? Okay, our board agreements, when we did our self-evaluation 2 weeks ago, we kept almost completely the same document. We eliminated a few sentences that might have been unclear or redundant, but overall it's the same document. We had some discussion on possibly limiting public comment to a time like 60 or 90 minutes with the ability to suspend that. But I think we came to the consensus that we're gonna keep it as is for now. Not change anything too drastic on that. You always wanna dig the well before you need the water, so you don't wanna get caught, wanting when you need something. Any other questions on that? All right. Staffing model for the 25-26 school year.
Okay, so I emailed out the board over the last month our thoughts on staffing for next year. And I just want to summarize it in a nutshell and answer a couple of questions that have come up and then see if I can explain it succinctly. What we have been talking about actually for about 6 months and maybe actually longer is how do we support curriculum as a district? Where does that live? We don't have a curriculum director that is responsible for managing that process, kindergarten through eighth grade. In other districts, it could be called a director of innovation and learning or teaching and learning. So focusing on what, not just materials and managing materials, we have had people that do that. But, you know, how do decisions get made on teaching and learning in the classroom? What are our priorities? What are our priorities as far as our teaching practices and what we're teaching? So we have done the oversight of that, working very hard, but it becomes challenging. And the administrative load is becoming additionally more and more challenging every year with additional responsibilities that are put on by state legislation, expectations, and in the last few years, discipline, to be frank and honest, that we are spending more and more time as building administrators disciplining students. So we've talked about this for a while. I have gone over with our instructional coaches. Our instructional coaches have picked up some of this load and filled in some gaps over time, but they also would like to spend more of their time in the classrooms, working directly with teachers and not doing some of the administrative curriculum work that they end up doing because there's no one else there. They have outlined some of these challenges to me. Starting in January. Our administrative team's been talking about it and they went into great detail on what parts are their role, what parts are not getting done, and what parts they would like to do to add clarity to their positions. So having settled that, what we did is narrow down, okay, what's our priorities, what must happen, what is nice to have, what's not, and also we looked at what challenges we're trying to solve here. What are the problems that we have, and what is the best solution for those issues then? And we listed out with staffing, listed out 5 or 6 different options and eliminated a bunch of them based on, well, it's not really going to help what we're intending to help. Looking through a framework of our vision statement, looking through a framework of our own understanding, our own biases, and what are our fears. For example, my fear is that we make a decision and add a staff member or change a staff member's role, and that doesn't actually help. Especially if we're looking at adding FTE. If we add FTE and it doesn't help solve the problem, that's very discouraging. So lots and lots of time and conversation about going over the finances, how does this play out? I did not bring anything to the board this spring because I don't think we can afford it. We're talking a little bit more in future months about our finances, the state of the district finances. We're headed into some very tight times. In the meantime, we had 3 coaching positions last year. We advertised one. Sandy Stolzer retired. She's leaving us, sadly, and So we tried to replace her. We were unable to find anybody that we felt would be dynamic enough to help us out and support us without having to train them and spend a lot of time doing that. We needed help and we needed somebody competent. We didn't think we had that person, so we didn't hire anybody. We went through some interviews. Didn't work out, so we have a FTE open in the teaching field. Also, the administrative assistant that reports directly to me for curriculum work. She is retiring and we decided not to replace her position. She does more than just curriculum. She's in the assessment area. She's in a little bit of professional development, which is somewhat curriculum, teaching and learning related, but human resources related. So we parsed out some of her roles and responsibilities. What we're still missing, it didn't have anybody pick up, is that curriculum piece with materials, just organizing and management. And so we're working through how do we do that. So we have those two positions that we're not rehiring for next year. Looking at what that does to our finances, is not clearly on the positive when we talk strictly finances. Could we then we start talking about revisiting, we had talked about hiring someone to do a curriculum role as an administrative role. So we got to that point again, revisited that. Okay, yes, we can afford this. This is time to go to the board and present this option. So here we are. From the board's perspective and what I need from the board, as far as the way your role is, we talked about, what's the board's authority? What's the board's role? We are actually going down in total FTE next year, so it's already been approved as far as work. This is a shift from the certified teaching role to administrative role, so it's a different role. Different cost structure. The overall savings though is, well, to some degree it isn't, because we're reducing administrative FTE. But anyway, I need, at some point you're gonna approve a contract for administrator. And so I want to have the board be aware of that and supportive of that. And if you get questions about it, you need to be aware of what's pros and the cons of all of these choices. So what I'm proposing is that we, at the elementary school, add an additional 0.5 assistant principal administrator.
That's the SEO?
No,
No, okay.
that would be, I'll go over the job description in a second. And the other half of that person's position would be teaching and learning district-wide. Just to have that broader oversight. Run the curriculum process, the review process, manage the curriculum review process, and support the coaches. Materials, and not that they're gonna be managing all the materials, but making some of those decisions along with the building leadership. So it's adding one person, split somewhat roles. But when we talked about, okay, what makes sense of how to split that role up with, okay, if I'm a district-wide teaching and learning, and that's gonna be my focus, what can I do to support the elementary school? That makes sense. Discipline is tough, would be tough for that person, because if they're here working on a committee, then at the elementary school, there wouldn't be the support and the immediate need help from that. Hard to plan. So that's out, combining those two. But what did make sense, we think, is supporting currently the IEP process So being in the meetings, that takes a lot of time. But it is planned time. So we can plan around curriculum work, or teaching and learning. Piece, I keep saying curriculum, but I really wanna get a teaching and learning mindset on that. The teaching and learning piece can be planned as far as meetings go. IEPs are planned as far as that goes, so those two can match up. And it may not be a 0.5 exactly, especially at different times of the year, because spring and fall, the IEP meetings are very heavy. Generally, as well, so they're planning and, we don't need to focus as much on the teaching part aspect. So that's why we paired that, the assistant principal with a focus on SEL, which would be oversight of the PBIS programming. Which would include disciplinary measures, as well as just the day-to-day operations of the building, and supporting all that administrative role. That would be paired with one person. And they would be just housed at the elementary building all the time.
Would that person also do the SEL for the middle school?
No. Just that once.
And you showed in the description, that you shared with us a 10-month contract,
Yep,
so not a 260-day, the rest of it.
right. So it'd be a 200-day contract.
Even if the person is taking on some of the IEP stuff, does that free up the people who are currently doing that to handle discipline issues? That's still a concern.
Yeah, so it'll help with the discipline issues because currently, this Carrie, who's the assistant principal at the elementary school. When she's doing all of the IEPs at the elementary school, which is a lot. It's a large school and when she's scheduled for a meeting, then there's no one available to help with a student who's dysregulated or needs to follow up. Discipline wise. So that's frustrating for teachers, they're not getting back. Principal can handle some of that, pick up that load, but the principal also has other obligations, and the way discipline has been going, especially this spring, they're both needed, and sometimes Mr. Rollins will step in, and sometimes I'll step in if I'm in the building to help support that as well when we can, but it's inconsistent. So that's been the challenge. And so when we're looking at, okay, we're looking at UDL for next year, we want to implement a new framework for classroom instruction, and we want to focus on our core teaching. One of the big pieces that is glaring, that's missing, is that accountability, and the building administration, I won't say principals, but both of them are not able to get into teachers' classrooms as much as we would like. And that shows up on the 5 essentials. So consistently, year over year, there's a question in the 5 essentials for teachers that says, my principal knows and understands what's going on in my classroom, and explore all of that every year. And we get feedback because of staff shares with us, and we want their feedback, and they share, hey, our teachers would like to see their principal more in the classroom and give the support that we need. We want to be seen. We want them to know how hard we're working, for one. And there's also times when we want them to know maybe how we're struggling with kids and see what it's like. And we want to know, hey, what's the decision here that needs to be made about handwriting, for example, cursive. When are we having those conversations, and can the principal meet with the teams and feedback? If Mr. Walshire is meeting with teams of teachers, Ms. Getville's in with parents at the IEP meeting, that it's tough to do that, and those were stretched very broadly. On top of that, the evaluations in a building of that size, it's tough to keep up with.
So that's a couple of my questions. first of all, how does the union feel because they're losing an FTE? Are they supportive of that change?
As far as I'm aware.
Just knowing the educational world and looking at how light you guys are administratively, I don't know how you've gotten done, everything you've gotten done. And the success that our schools are having because you don't have people that are dedicated to specific jobs. So when I saw this come up, I'm like, that makes sense to me. And then it just like, it kind of brought through some questions like, if they're gonna be sitting in IEP meetings or curriculum meetings, teaching learning meetings, are they helping with discipline? Are they helping with teacher evaluations? Cause those are the things that also take administrators away from being able to go and, see what's going on in the classroom or all the good stuff. So they'll basically be doing everything everybody else is doing and the teaching and learning side.
Yep. Not as much though, so not as much as
Proportional.
Yeah. And the. Yeah, the evaluation load will still help. Support, because that's where we need the support, and that's the accountability piece too.
I would just
And we'll-
make sure there is an accountability piece for that, whoever that person ends up being, because I can see it. Like, it'll ebb and flow, where like, I'm in the building all the time and not doing the teaching learning stuff, and then I'm doing all the teaching learning stuff down in the building. So
I think that tension's always gonna be there, and we'll have to manage that, I think that's in every role. In education, no matter how many people we have, we still have that. Because, as you know, in education, we can always do more, there's always extra.
work never gets done.
The work never gets done. And we have to be careful, and we've had a lot of conversation about this. And I know we've been through financial struggles in the past and have lived through it. That's not fun either. We don't want to get ourselves too far over our skis and have to pull back. So trying to balance all of that and to say, at some point, we have to make tough decisions about what our priorities are and what's most important to us. And we did some work on that this summer, and I think we've got more work to do because things leak or they shift or and that's what's happened.
I appreciate though that you're thinking of ways to fund this position without like going into your fund balance, like
Right.
you're like, well, we're not hiring this, so that gives us a little bit of money, and so it's like saving for vacation, kind of like you're kind of squirreling away money so that you can get what you want. So I appreciate that. Is it sustainable long-term financially to do that?
We don't know.
Okay.
I can't answer that question. But we could say that for any position. We can't predict the future with funding, and I would say for the next 2 years, yes. Let's try it. Let's see. Let's make sure that it actually helps the way we think it's gonna help. And we don't know what's gonna happen in 2 years of what people do and what's needed. So in that time, you reevaluate, okay, is this position the most important to save, or are we or allowing class sizes to go up 1 or 2? Those are the conversations that get more and more difficult. I don't anticipate it impacting this decision impacting class size for 2 years. This year, next year. But yeah. It depends.
I do think it's really needed.
Yeah. I do too.
Couple comments that I get, do you think you're gonna be able to fill these positions before the start of the 25-26 school year?
That depends on the timing and depends on board's reaction.
That's, we don't.
So I'm not looking for your approval, but if you say, heck no, you're way out of line and we can't do this.
Is it-
Then I know we've got to think different, do something.
So you're thinking of having like a 2-year trial run for these positions or these people? And if we're rushed to find somebody quickly in the next 6 or 8 weeks, we might not have the best person possible for that position. And so it might not be a fair 2-year trial run. That's one thing, if we can't find the right person,
If we can't find the right person, we will not hire.
just to fill it. Yeah.
Yep, just to fill it, because that will push us backwards. So it's a good question and fair, but we didn't hire just any person there are people that applied for the coaching position. But we want in those roles that are critical that we lean on, because we are so thin in our administrative position, and to answer your question about how we got the work done that we did, we have exceptional people working these roles. So that's how you do it. Makes my job a lot easier if you've got great people who can work their tail off and get stuff done. That helps. Yes. So.
Thank you all.
But at what cost? I mean, truly,
Well,
like.
that's the,
Right? Right? Like their health and well-being, no amount of money or job is worth that. If we can help make it more successful and sustainable for people, then.
well, that's,
And you've all put
That's
in the work
driving
of
this
what you're gonna
discussion.
do of your role and responsibilities, I mean, it's. I'm shocked that it took this long, like honestly, like you guys have done amazing, so I'm happy to give you guys breathing room if that's the way we go. Honestly, you guys have all done amazing. Truly. I think it's personal, just allow you guys to have breathing room and really dive in developmentally, you know, look at the behaviors, look at the curriculum, and then get to be there for your teachers, which is what you guys really wanna be there for. So, and that helps the kids, it helps the parents, helps the community, so I think it's really.
Yeah, I think I would start here. I don't think I have any person pushing it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions, comments, or information for the staffing model? All right, pediatric interaction services for the 25-26 school year. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a contract that'll be on the next board agenda. We didn't have it ready for this one, so we pushed it from approval down to the information.
That's speech and language, this.
That's yep.
So
Speech and
4
language,
days a week.
4 days a week. For a set amount, that's a very fair price, given the market and. Our desperation. We've had the position open since. Adam, how long have we had the position open?
It's March, I think. March 17th.
February,
Oh.
I think February. We interviewed a couple people and we lost them.
That applied. Very strong. Try to get them to 5%. Staff. By the time we can even try to put that's that. Some positions, but the position we just posted for as a position. That's part of the. Yeah. So dive into that. So they're interested to is that a screening.
Yeah. That was the hopeful part, right? But there were some strong candidates out there that wanted to come over and they just wanted to no longer than a year. Get situation. So they'll fill most of the role for a year and then we have to figure out how to. Band-aid together the rest.
And this will be one person.
One
Do
person,
we- okay.
same person.
Okay.
Great.
Good.
And has she worked here before, this one? Okay.
Other questions on that? Budget highlights.
All right.
Fantastic.
So a couple board meetings ago, we went through the rhythm of the budget planning for a year. This document is going to go over the budget calendar for fiscal year 26. As well as just some highlights. So, if we go to the next slide. There,
I'm sorry, I'm still messing.
Sorry.
sharing on Zoom so everybody can see it. There we go. Wow. Very much the.
So this here is a budget calendar and I guess the bottom line on top is that according to school code, school districts have to post or complete a school budget by September 30th. So for this year, the goal is to provide the board with a tentative budget by the end of July. Request for board approval to put that tentative budget on display. We post that in a newspaper still, post it online to our website. And then have discussions through August, go into a formal special meeting or public budget hearing, August 25th. To adopt the budget, and then within 30 days from that, it needs to be provided to the county clerk and submitted to the state. This is simply just the calendar for this year. We go to the next slide. I'm just including this in this presentation, and if are you able to shrink it down just a smidge? There's a little bit of a description on the left there. In Illinois, we follow what's called fund accounting. So all of the revenues and expenditures are broken into 9 funds. Basically, this is just a way to organize and report back to the public and help us track things. So I include this slide here as just information on what those 9 funds are. When we are looking, or when the state is looking to see if a school district has a deficit budget, they're looking at only 4 of those 9 funds. Fund 10, which is the education fund, 20, which is the operations and maintenance fund, 40, the transportation fund, and 70 working cash. So this is just a tool for future reference. If we can scroll down to the next slide. So Dr. Lind asked me to provide a snapshot of the draft budget in early June, which is pretty early. It's kind of tricky to do that because there's a lot that's up in the air still. But this is what was presented to the administrative team during a retreat in the beginning of the month. And it's showing that there is a balanced budget, there's no deficit. But what I would like to do over the next few slides is walk you through the assumptions that are driving those numbers. It will likely change. So really high level, a budget is simply just a snapshot in time of revenues and expenditures for a period of time as of a given date. There are a number of pending things that hopefully will be resolved in the next few weeks. Things like open positions, interest. If you read the news, there's a different answer almost every day about rate cuts and what's going to happen over the year. So what I did to get those numbers on the slide, just before, I anticipated a 25% decrease in interest from the prior year. We will be seeing a decrease in federal funding, state decreases to mandated categoricals in the transportation and special ed tuition revenue sources. And then I'm still waiting for the USDA meal reimbursement rate, which comes out in July. That helps us determine what we're going to charge for lunches to students who pay for lunches. And I'm still working on the state transportation claim, but that likely will be decreasing as well. We jump down to the next slide. Education fund. So the good news is on the revenue side, we are getting back over $890,000 in property tax relief grant money that had to be abated from the education fund. We're going to see an increase in $370,000 in property tax revenue.
but we're also seeing some decreases. So there will be a Cedal housing credit decrease of about $35,000. So right now Cedal rents a number of rooms at both buildings. They look at a formula they have basically that counts the number of rooms they rent from one year to the next. And as they start to utilize less rooms, then we receive a decrease in revenue from them. There will be a $13,300 decrease in special ed revenue from out of district students. And at the time, when I created this preliminary budget, I assumed that we would be getting the same amount of money in Medicaid, Title I, Title II, IDEA, and the National School Lunch Program. Medicaid, I've not heard anything about. Title II right now, nothing has been allocated to any school districts. I don't know if anything will be. So that is up in the air. Because there are a number of things that are up in the air, I'm anticipating we'll be doing an amendment halfway through the year, similar to what we did this year. Also, unfortunately, the Veterans Property Relief Pilot Grant. So if you recall, we received this last year, just over $200,000. We used it to buy the furniture, the new furniture that we have in both media centers. That was supposed to be a 5 or a 6 year pilot. It was froze this year, so we're getting nothing this year, and I'm anticipating nothing going forward. The reason it was froze is because of federal funding freezes. So, the numbers that you saw a few slides before include that, decrease. Ooh, expenditure changes, sorry. Assumptions, we will have 2 students, well, actually 6 students currently placed out of district, 4 at Cedal. So the bottom bullet is showing a $60,500 increase from prior years for Cedal tuition expenditures. And we're estimating about $140,000 to place 2 students. They won't be going to Cedal facilities, but they will be out of district. There's a 4% increase to PSRP salaries and an average of 4% increase to teacher salaries. So between salary and benefit increases, it's close to $600,000 hitting the books this year. Fund 20, so operations and maintenance, this is where we see the bulk of our Cedal housing credit. It's decreasing $115,000. We will get an increase of over $55,000 in property taxes. We will be getting, if it's still offered, we'll apply for the school project maintenance grant in the fall. So they give $50,000. It's a matching grant of $50,000 to put towards a building improvement project. And the tentative budget is assuming the same amount of building rental revenue from the previous year. Salary and benefit increases are actually, I think, just around $50,000. We will probably see an increase to gas and electricity, so close to $100,000 of an increase in those utilities. And then small special projects that we're working on are listed there: awning repair, parking lot gate, bigger projects we'll get to in a moment. Transportation fund, ISB's estimating their funding to decrease considerably this year for transportation, a total of probably over $100,000. We will see a property tax revenue increase of $25,000. Also, the budget right now is assuming only $500 in cab services for special ed out of district placements. We may have enough bus drivers to cover those routes if needed, but if not, we'll need to put more money aside for cab services. And it assumes $26,500 in less cab transportation. Non-working cash, so this is just a rainy day fund. It's money coming in from property taxes and a little bit of interest in the bank. We can't simply spend money out of it. We could, if there was ever a crisis, you can basically abate that fund. But we're not there yet, so we just kind of keep building that fund up. And if we scroll to the next capital project highlights, again, this isn't touching whether or not we have a deficit budget, but this is one of the funds within our budget. So where we do larger projects, we are anticipating about $100,000 in interest and prior year levy recapture. Decreasing revenue from the Veterans Property Relief Pilot Grant, about $25,000. Impact fees, if there are any new impact fees, they're receipted here. The expenditures or the plans that were the plan for our bigger projects this year will be tuck pointing at MES, rod and seal control joint, and I will need Jason to better explain what that is. Replacing the east gym floor at the elementary school. So these pictures in the bottom lower right corner are pictures of the floor in the east gym. It's kind of like a rubber floor, but it's scraped in a number of places. It's very old. So to remove the current floor and replace it is over $200,000. We would use the property or the school maintenance project grant, $50,000 that we get from the state to go against that. Rooftop unit repairs, and of course, all of these projects are very large, so they would go through the bidding project. We don't anticipate any additional dollars going towards cameras for the next year. We want to see how the current ones work. I think that's it. Any questions? That's it.
Thanks, Carl. It's the earliest we've had this much done. Yeah.
When can we typically heard from the state when they would pay the bills and the federal, or when they would give us the money that they say they're gonna give us?
So typically we know already for, are you referring to like the IDEA and title grants? So typically we know already. And so we know for IDEA and Title I what we're getting. We know also for IDEA, the amount that the state gave us was prorated. It was reduced 10%. So they already know that they're probably not giving us the full amount, because I'm assuming that they're not getting what they thought they would be getting. Title II, there's no information out there, just that it's just not available as of yet. So I'm thinking that between that and Medicaid, I'm wondering if it's tied to the federal budget and when that will be passed, and once that's passed, how it trickles down to the states, I think will be determined from there. So hopefully by the end of the summer.
Fingers crossed.
Right,
Yeah.
but even things like the pilot for the property, the Veterans Property Relief Grant. We did not find out that went away until I think it was May 22nd of this year. So that was just surprise on, so just never know, hence a budget. It's just a moving target sometimes.
All right. Any other questions? Okay.
I have no questions.
Oh, good.
Thanks, Carl.
Future agenda items, lunch cost for the 25-26 school year. We're in the middle of a 5-year contract with formerly Arbor, now Whitson's. And price of food goes up, price of materials go up, and in the contract, they're allowed to charge us up to a certain percentage of, I don't know, CPI or
Something.
and the years I've been on the board, they've always gone up the max they're allowed to. So we'll have to decide on how much of that cost we're passing along to parents.
And we're waiting for the federal reimbursement rate before we set our fee.
Right, so hopefully that comes out in early July, and then from there we can determine what to charge students.
Right about $3 now. $2.95, $3.
For.
Oh, all right, I'm way off.
We know how many families purchase lunches?
I not how many families, no,
Or
but
how
I
many
can find out.
individual lunches or.
As many lunches do we sell a day?
Yes.
Yeah.
That I can
We can get that.
pull that.
Because I think like if it's a lot of people that it's gonna impact versus. Small, I don't know if that makes a difference on our thoughts, but it just might be good to know how many people that's gonna impact.
Ben,
And
Jake, do you know what percentage of kids buy lunches on a daily basis-ish? Depends on what's being served.
Oh, Fridays.
Pizza day, right?
Fridays, pizza day. I ballpark it average. This is just purely observation.
You don't have a chart.
Eight, I will. 25%.
No, just lunches there.
I would say.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like.
Yeah. Oh,
It's about five every day.
I know my kids always did too, because I.
I mean, usually I go on.
I'm not back to lunch, so
Valley.
I'll pay for 25, fine.
I think it's still hard. Can I turn that in? Like get remittances for it?
Yep.
So in May, for the entire district, there were. 5,100 meals. Paid for. 1,942 were free and 517 were reduced. So close to 8,000 a month.
There's like 20 school days and.
Yeah, 20 or 21 in May.
say about 400, a little under 375.
Yeah, so it's about a third. Little over
Or is there, yeah.
35,
Oh, there you go. There you go, yeah.
35%, let's say. Less than it used to be higher. Because they used to taste a little better.
And that is an option we have when this contract expires. We're not limited to the lowest bidder like we are on some things. We can choose more expensive food provider for somebody who serves an outdoor league. Yeah. All right, 25, 26 budget, already talked about that. Superintendent report.
I've got one item. We are part of, each board last year signed an agreement with other Lake County schools and the Regional Office of Education. We did an intergovernmental agreement called LC Smart, if you recall that brief discussion, but basically it's a intergovernmental agreement with all the districts, or not all the districts, everybody that signed up in Lake County to be part of this, that if there was a disaster happening in Lake Zurich, that we would do whatever we could to help Lake Zurich and vice versa. So not that we would have to, we're not obligated to anything, but if we could, then we'd already have this agreement signed and it'd be easier to share. Let's say busing service. Let's say they had a freeze, it got so cold, and Milburn buses always run, as it turns out, no matter how cold it gets. Lake Zurich's don't, we would be able to set buses back. Or if there's some other tragedy, Lake Zurich again has an earthquake and their bus barn is gone. We would be able to supply them with some of their buses. Figure that out. So that's basically what it is. So we met today, as a group. So last year it was formed, this year now it's becoming more of a formal process. So there'll be a representative that serves on kind of a board that has to make some of the decisions about what the focus is of this group, how we can support each other. Lake County Emergency Management's involved in this, which is great having them because they could list out some resources that they have. So heaven forbid we have a situation where we have to reunify students in a different location. They have digital signage that they can supply. They have generators that they could supply, which not all superintendents knew. They have these massive generators that they could give us for free instead of, if we lost power for a day, having to buy it. And sure, very expensive.
Having had to sandbag a school.
Yeah,
Um,
floods, for example. I
yes,
haven't heard about that for.
because they tore the building down.
That nice.
But it is nice to, when all the different agencies come together and help, so I'm glad you guys are doing that.
Yeah.
How many school districts are involved in that? Like every Lake County school
No.
district? Okay.
20 plus, and there's 46. 45.
Mostly
20.
elementary, or are there?
Yeah, I know, I couldn't say. I mean, everybody was there. Everybody in our area was there.
Okay.
Today. But not everybody. For whatever reason, I don't know why they went. Good part, it cost us $250 a year.
Worth it.
A good investment.
Way worth it.
Yeah.
Yep. We talked about, okay, if there is a tragedy at a school. Having this group have a SWAT team ready, or strike team, not SWAT team, strike team ready for reunification. So you have a team that's ready for reunification, send a team there that knows how to handle it and has been trained, that understands that process. It would still work with us, but it would be support. Or this year we had a couple of situations where a student died in the school district or a teacher passed away. Sending a group of trauma prepared social workers who have had the training for trauma, which they don't all have. That's specific for that scenario. They can go and send a strike team to that school and be ready to go that next day, which is really nice. Nice to have that support if needed.
Having went through both of those scenarios. To have additional staff, because when you have your own people counseling kid, like they're dealing with the trauma themselves,
Yeah.
and so to have people who are connected to the situation, I think that's really good.
Yeah, definitely. And we help each other out now, but it would be nice to have that backup. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Actually, Mr. Craft, anything else for the business office report?
So yeah, just a quick update, second page of the, this document, just the updates.
So pretty.
Yeah.
You can
You can still smell it, yeah.
So all of our summer projects are coming along very quickly and nicely. They'll pretty much be wrapped up by the end of this month. We have the carpeting and at the middle school, the cameras are in. The sound system in the East Gym at the elementary school goes in this week, and the new copiers and printers will be installed in mid-July. So everything is coming along, and just a shout out to our custodial team, they're doing an amazing job.
Great.
And
Still haven't applied yet.
I know.
They
Yeah.
are on it.
Yeah. yeah,
That's
so
great.
great.
They moved a lot of books in. Suzanne was part of that.
Uh,
Planning process, but they're already back on the
Yeah.
shelf.
I'm
really hard.
And just a thank you to the board for approving these projects, because I know it means a lot to the kids to have nice spaces to come to, and as a parent in the district, having nice spaces to walk into as well. So thank you.
Yep, definitely. Appreciate it.
Thank you to the taxpayers for,
Yep.
thank you for that
What you
too,
will.
yeah. Any board reports?
Eric and I went to the Ed Red Mini Summit a few weeks ago. It was at Glenbrook North High School, and it was board members, it was administrators. And just kind of sharing ideas and resources. I'll let you speak to what you went to. But I went and saw Pamna from Diamond Lake, and she talked about how she really brought the district along and like helped them build vision and mission, and she's pretty dynamic, you know, she is. And then went to a session about communication with the community, that through Deerfield 109, when they went through, they're like, what happens when you're in the national spotlight? When they had an issue with the transgender student, they didn't have the issue, but the community had the issue with the transgender student. And they were all over the news and everything. And so she kind of shared like the things that they learned through that process. And I thought that was really valuable. And so I talked a little bit with Jason about some of those things. And I think it's great that the superintendents are getting together and sharing ideas just in general, so that when things like that happen, you can say, okay, how did you handle this? What did you do when you got 10,000 emails in one night? That kind of thing. So it was really valuable for me to go and like, with a different hat on and think about the information presented and through a different lens for me. It was good.
Yeah, I went to it and, I was like, with the newbie and all this, and I went to more sessions that were like more basic to what I wanted. One was just about talking about the roles of the board members, the school board lawyer, the principal superintendent. So it was just interesting to sort of get an overview of that. And then I went to another session that was focused just on all the legislative updates, like bills that have been passed, bills that were expected to maybe pass in the coming years. It was interesting to sort of, learn about all of those issues, which again relates back to some of these policy changes that we went to. But I thought it was invaluable because I'd never, this is all new to me. And I just thought it was very well done. As you pointed out, it was in the same school that Ferris Bueller was filmed. And that's kind of interesting. So no, I thought it was great. And and there was no charge to it and I would happily go again. So no, I appreciate that Jen even told me about it because it was I thought it was great. So yeah.
Excellent.
In CEDAW, so we have the governing board for CEDAW, which has one school board member from each member district, and then we defer a lot of our power or delegate a lot of our power to an executive board. Dr. Lind was the president of that board. He's remaining on the executive board for CEDAW. Stephen Mack will be the new president of it. He's Grades Lake District 46, great guy. And Dr. Judy Hackett has been tapped by Governor Pritzker to join the Illinois State Board of Education. She was the co-interim super over at CEDAW, so it's good to have somebody with experience moving up there. She's still going to be in her role, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
she's not leaving. So while looking for a full-time superintendent over at CEDAW. So if you know anybody, we're hiring CEDAW's hiring a company, what's it?
Search firm.
Yeah, search firm, yes, to find a good super. CEDAW. Did the IASB advocacy ambassador powwow, it's a Zoom call. Big things, the evidence-based funding for the state is going down from 350 to 307 million. And again, big thing that Carla touched on it as well, the transportation. It's just stayed flat, but as costs go up or down, so between 60 and 70% reimbursement for that, when it used to be 98% like 10, 15 years ago. Those are the big ones on there. Another thing, as far as some of these meetings, maybe touching base on what Jen was saying, trying to get community involvement. When we had the art presentation, I was down at my job in Skokie, and one of my colleagues said, "Oh, I saw you on Facebook, Fred." And I was like, I don't do Facebook. What do you mean you saw me on Facebook? Well, the Grays Lake School had posted the picture of the student presenting. So if we can have more celebrations like that in our board meetings, I know it's a business meeting, but it's nice to have those little things. But I don't want to, okay, we need to have a celebration at this meeting that gets watered down. But if it's something significant, then that can help with outreach too. Other things from the ex ambassador, the hiring new teacher grant is also getting axed. And some school districts are joining consortiums to outsource their health insurance because they just can't get cheap enough health insurance for teachers in their own county. So that's something that's important to IASB as well. Trying to make that affordable, because that's our second largest expense as a school district after salaries. It's health insurance. That's all I have for my report. We do have closed session tonight. Well, I told them we were going to. If we don't want to, we don't have to. But just.
I didn't know, since 3 people.
Yeah, did you want to wait for more people to be involved because of what we're talking about?
I talked with Chris about it. And he's, I did
I'm
not
here
talk with-
also, still.
Oh, yeah. I didn't try, we can put it off if you want.
I mean, it makes sense to have Lisa and John here. Because
They've been on very,
Okay.
so.
All right. Well,
I feel more comfortable if like everyone just had
Yeah,
a voice in the conversation.
Okay,
Great, yeah.
that makes it going. All right, so with no closed session, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll
Second.
second that.
Perfect. All in favor? All right, we stand
Aye.
adjourned.
Hi, Chris.
Good night.